get not only man-made clouds from these jet contrails, but we get white haze. And when it changes our climate, it's like a geoengineering project underway. And what I found is unusual spikes in barium, aluminum, manganese, magnesium, strontium, uranium, a variety of heavy metals. Boron is one of them, and arsenic. There's a group of chemicals that are all spiking unusually in our drinking water supplies. There's a lot of speculation on where this, in other words, that these chemicals are showing up. But the speculation was that I can't prove that they're being sprayed or used by the jets. And this is the disadvantage, and this is something I would like to know. And no government agency is willing to do the investigation to find out. You notice that all of the commercials go in straight lines, but the ones that we see that leave the crisscrossing and the crosshatches and the curlicues and the circles, then these are the ones that are leaving the big plumes over Mendocino and Lake County and other counties in this area. So, and you can see that very few commercial airlines cross our county in this area. The majority of the flights are these intra-flights, which are military flights. If they float in as man-made clouds, or they float in, they're going to float in from the Pacific, moving east onto land. So the main patterns for commercial airlines is to the east of us. So if there's any residues left over, they would not move over us and go backwards against the wind. They would move this way toward the east. And we see these type of patterns and flights in other countries as well, especially the NATO countries. Anybody can modify our weather. Any private corporation, any individual, any state, any county, any city, the military, and they don't have to notify the public. They don't have to tell agricultural producers. There's no oversight to these programs. So what I did is I started to look at the list that I got from the U.S. Department of Commerce, and I began to put together this map to show where consistent ongoing weather modification programs were taking place. So the numbers here are the square miles of the states of Texas, 272,000 approximately. But, and the jet stream most of the time moves across in one manner or another. So what happens is that all the weather that's modified here will have an impact in the food belt over here in these states. So it can move and change weather going this way. So I found out that rockets, small planes, big jets, in other words, in ground-based chemicals, can be dispersed at any time, in any amount, any kind, without any oversight. And that they can modify 183,000 square miles all at one time. You can take rain and you can put, or snow, and you can take it from one area and you can put it into another area. So you can put one county or state into drought, and another county will get too much rain or too much snow, but you can move it around so that it benefits private corporations. It would benefit this group over another group. But you don't have to have permission from any of the people or the ag producers to do this. So when people wonder why their weather is disrupted, I'm saying, look, we have lists, and I gave you a list, of all these weather modification programs. NASA was very interesting because in the late 1980s, NASA invented a school program. And in this school program, which was first fielded in schools in Europe and not in the United States, they invented a contrail watching program. And it was a kindergarten through 12th grade in which every student would be introduced to contrails, and they would play games counting contrails, and they were called countathons. Children were taught, starting in the late 1980s, that contrails were normal, water vapor, ice crystals, benign in the environment. And NASA floated this program and had it going in European countries first. And then all of a sudden, around 1990, they brought this program to the United States, and they introduced it in kindergarten through 12th grade. And they began to teach school children by 1990 that contrails were normal. They had children counting contrails because they made the claim initially that they couldn't see contrails from satellites or the ground, and that the only way that they could have a record of the types and contrails and things was to have children watch them. But I think it was a brainwashing program, in a sense, to be very blunt, to tell children that this was normal, everything was fine, that they could count them, that they could look up, and they were taught that this was benign in the environment. We can solve all of these problems when NASA says that jets contribute to global warming and they exacerbate it. Well, why aren't we dealing with that? And in the U.S. Senate, the U.S. House, why aren't we dealing with that worldwide? And yet the discussion isn't being made. There's solutions here that can be done that are economically feasible, that aren't going to cost industry tons of money, and yet will reduce our pollution. And those are the solutions we need to go for, rather than enriching people on the stock market by selling them bogus credits so that they can buy the right to pollute just because they have the money.